There's a few reasons for creating this video. One is I did a course probably about a year ago called SolveIt, and it's done by Jeremy Howard and his team at Answer.ai. And it's a new approach to creating notebooks. There's a big tradition at the moment, or a big sort of emphasis on writing agents, creating agents to go off and sort of write your software for you. And you have little agency in there other than creating the spec and expecting the code. I've done this before, and you can get into sort of a problem where you think you understand the code, but you actually don't, and then you spend more time debugging it. Whereas this approach is totally different. You're in charge, you write the code yourself, step by step, and it forces you to write the code yourself. And if you do ask the LLM, you've got different options, and I always leave it on learning. So it doesn't give you the whole answer. It gives you the answer, maybe, maybe not, and maybe it just tells you how to go about solving the problem. It's got a few other things in there as well that are quite good, in that it doesn't look at the whole context, it only looks at what's above it, so the cells above it. And that's quite useful because you're creating a context for the application as you're going down. But the other reason I wanted to start this is because I've got some issues at work where I need to display data. So I've took some data, I've run it through some software called docETL, which is a series of LLM operations that takes unstructured data and creates into some sort of structure. But I wanted a way to display this data and to search data. And that's what I was getting from the users. And I thought, why not just reach for FastHTML? And why don't you SolveIt for this? Just test it out. So I spent the weekend just coding this up, and this is my attempt at doing it. So FastHTML is a Python-based programming web development framework. It uses HTMX. So it's a lot of the web softwares out there at the moment. They use JavaScript, but I don't know JavaScript. To be honest, I don't really want to learn it. I will learn it, and I have built applications in JavaScript, but I don't know it inside out. And most of the things I'm working on these days is data, so I want to stay with the same language if possible. So what I've done is I've imported some data, so some email data, and then I've set up a website within SolveIt. So this is SolveIt here. So you can see you've got cells here, and you've got notes. So you've got, let me just move this out of the way, over that side, and move that one down. I can move that off screen. So you've got the cell, you've got headings, which is notes, which is the same. You can write your code, and you can write a prompt, and then raw. So raw is usually if you're exporting it and want to do something outside, maybe create a Quarto blog or something like that. And the prompt is just using the prompt to sort of query what's above that particular cell. So I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how I've built this app. So when you're using SolveIt, you've got instances. So you can think of that as a kind of a Docker container, and you've got access to that in two different ways. One, you've got the web displaying. So if you're creating a FastHTML page, you can actually display that link to people. If we click that, it's not found, and the reason it's not found is because I've not created a default route. But if I type in this route that I've created and just add it to the end of there, and I just search for something. So I search for alarm, search, and it displays the data that I've imported. And the first one that brings up is a fire alarm. So I know that's working. I go down to the bottom entry, web scales renewals. So there's nothing about fire alarms in there from what I can see. So the most relevant information is at the top. So this is what I've built, just a very simple search facility. What you can also do is ask the notebook, access the notebook by clicking on this link here, which opens up this SolveIt dialog. So let's go to the top. So what I've done here is I've installed some apps that I needed to. So LanceDB is the vector search, but also the free text search that I've used to display the information. NumPy, not sure why I've installed that, but there's probably some reason later on. FastHTML is the actual application, and I also need to install the Jupyter. And the Monster UI is the layout for FastHTML. This is the data, so I've imported the training data. So this is the data that's going to be displayed in the website. So in this here, this is this data. And this is just setting up the environment. So this is going to create a route or create the web service that's going to display the web page. So that's going to display this to make sure it displays correctly. And then the render here, just make sure that it doesn't display the output from any of the cells in HTML. It actually renders that HTML to something that looks like a web page rather than giving you the HTML tags. So the first thing is to create a database. I've imported a model, which is a very small model. It says here it's 33 million, I think it's about 138 megabytes, and it runs on the CPU. So it's quite a good one to use if you've got a very low power. Obviously, it's not going to be as good as a big model, but there's ways to fine tune it for your data sets. I've not done any of that. I've just imported it just for this example. These are all the columns in my data. So you're passing this to LanceDB, so it creates the database. What we've got here is all the keys that have been imported. I've done this just so I can copy them out and make sure that I can create the right indexes for the column as well. So I've also done a free text search within LanceDB, so it's not just using the vector search, which LanceDB is what LanceDB is known for, and what this model is going to be used for. It'll also do I think it's BM25 search in those texts. So when I type something in this box here, this is what it's using. So to be able to get this data into LanceDB, I need to format it into a list of email records. And then what I'm doing is just showing you what's in the table. And this is just the pandas data frame that's been exported out. So you can have a look in there. What else we got in here? So what I've done here, just to show you what the vectors look like, and the vectors have only been done on the email summary table. Ideally, you'll probably do a full sort of chunking of that data. But just for the example's sake, I've just used the email summary, and it's worked pretty well. You know, it brought up the right results for the alarm. So I did that with just a full text search and also with just a vector, and it displays okay. Obviously, you need to go a bit more in depth if you're putting this in production. And this is the website. So all this is doing is displaying the information. So it is creating a form, and it's the post. So it's going to search all, and there's good results. So when it calls this this one here, it's going to put the results that it gets back from here, from this function, and it's going to pass it back into this div section here. So what is this doing? This is doing a table search. So in the LanceDB, it's passing in whatever the query is. The query goes into this search box here. And then we're doing a hybrid search. That's telling it to do a text search, but also using a vector search. And then convert that to a pandas data frame. Then we're creating a list. We're going through every row in the pandas data frame, so this result here, and then we're displaying each row of information. And then we're appending that to a card. And then what we're doing at the end, if there is data there, it's returning the card, and that will display in this different section here. If there's no data, then it just displays no results found. And that's it. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. So this bit here is the HTMX targets. I'll not get into that now, but that's based on what FastHTML is based on. What you can also do is, I like this for testing, but also just you can get quite rich documents within SolveIt, as you can display the information in line. So this here, this post, is calling this here, and it's getting returned the cards for whatever the query is. And all I've done is typed in alarm. So exactly the same I've typed in there. You've got the same fire alarm match, and you've got fire alarm, but it's displayed within SolveIt, so you don't need to go to a separate web page. And that is it.